Hi everyone. Trying to see if anybody's able to see me. I'm getting some conflicting information from YouTube that the stream isn't working. So please let me know if you are here. Yeah, that would really help me. It says that there are 2 people, 3 people. So could you let me know that you are here? And if you are, hi, how are you? Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. It says now I'm live on my channel. Okay. So maybe the information is incorrect. So hopefully everybody is here. Yeah. Okay. So, we had a great conversation last night, and I thank you everybody for joining. And as I finished our conversation last night and sat down for dinner with my husband and son, my son, who is so brilliant with history, and I really don't understand why I do understand why he is, what do I want to say? He is majoring in math, but really he is brilliant with history. And he kind of had a lot to say about what I had said last night. And one of the things that I neglected, or, I really wanted him to do the show with me to talk about was that, and I wanted to make it clear that when you put up a monument about somebody, and I think I likened it to kind of Renaissance iconography, when you put up a monument, you are celebrating someone. You are celebrating them. And the people that we have monuments to in this country don't deserve to be celebrated if they are, for slavery, even if it was an older part in our history. It's not erasing our history. You can always read about somebody, right? You can always read about someone. But do we celebrate that person? And human beings are complicated. They are complicated. So sometimes my son loves to say, Jefferson, yay, he balanced a budget. Do we have to have, yeah, I get that he was a president, but what's his big claim to fame? He balanced a budget, but he was a horrific racist. I mean, because of Jefferson, we have the Trail of Tears, the amount of bloodshed. So I think that that's what's really important in this conversation and in this argument, so to speak, is that we have to understand that there's knowing our history, not erasing our history, never erase history, because we have to learn from it. We have to be better. We have to evolve. But do you celebrate those who are on the wrong side of history? And a monument is actually that, a celebration of a person. So when and I want to, again, the juxtaposition of this, the reason we took down King George was we were no longer celebrating him as a leader, right? The reason why Calhoun needs to come down in Charleston, which we are doing presently, is because his biggest claim to fame was how pro-racist he was. Hi, Clyde. So glad you're here. I started it a little early because I'm really concerned that I keep getting these notices that my video is not working well. So yeah, just going over a little bit of last night. So if we should not celebrate this. Don't erase history. He's in the history books. There's plenty to read about Calhoun. There's plenty to read, but I guarantee no one does. And so they just look up to this man and then just assume he's to be revered because of this movement of, as we talked about last night, this movement during Reconstruction or failed Reconstruction of the lost cause, to keep those people front and center. I mean, when you lose a war, you lose, right? It's a crime in Germany to be a Holocaust denier. It's a crime. When you lose a war, you lose. You do not make monuments to those people who wanted to continue with an oppressive way of life. Juxtaposed to that, which I didn't get to last night, but I wanted to, was the issues with, now we're hearing about the Aunt Jemima image. And I feel very strongly about this image. Of course you know that I do, right? Well, Aunt Jemima's already been through a makeover. The Aunt Jemima image on the right is the original, right? That's the original image, Aunt Jemima on the right. Now, that's a horrific image. And if you don't know why, that's okay. I can explain it. Hashtag looking is learning. When you look at this woman, and again, I only have to ask my students, you see a very heavy African-American woman with a do-rag on her head, dressed in some kind of uniform, and she is clearly very coarsely drawn. She has a big smile on her face. Her eyes are kind of big, and she is there to wait and serve you. She's Mammy. That's the image of Mammy. That's the image of during the Civil War, before the Civil War. That's the image of African American women. They're the mammies. They're just there to take care of, they're the slaves that are in the house. Now, the house slaves. The image got better on the left, but it's still an image of an African American woman as a maid, right? She doesn't look like she's going out to a high-powered job trying to feed her kids in the morning. These are the problem with these images, and we need a reaccounting of them. And I am forever grateful to be a part of an exhibit at the New York Historical Society in which Betty Sars, who's now, my friends, 92 years old, reclaimed the image of Aunt Jemima quite some time ago. In 1992, she reclaimed these images. And what she did was she used the image of Aunt Jemima, the mammy, and she puts a gun in her hand. And she uses a washboard. She says extreme times call for extreme heroines. Let's empower that mammy figure, that we're just not that kind of overweight, goofy woman who's there to serve breakfast with a broom ready to clean up after you, right? I have a feeling my feed may not be good today, and this comes out of a long history that starts with Jim Crow. This is a white man, and he's a vaudeville performer, and he comes up with this image of Jim Crow, the blackface. And look at Jim Crow. He's a goofball. He's worse than a goofball. He's a doofus. He's there to laugh. He's like a carnival character, right? He's a circus performer. And at the time that we're looking at Jim Crow in New York in Broadway theaters and vaudeville theaters, the rise of the KKK is happening in the South in Reconstruction. Because at this time, it's that whole push of the lost cause to build these monuments to the lost glory of the South, of the Confederate South. And it's not about not forgetting history. It's about suppression. Very, very important. And so Dred Scott, bless his heart, wants to offset that image in the same way that Betty Sars, 100-something years later, offsets the Aunt Jemima image or the mammy image. Dred Scott has himself a portrait done of himself to show that this is what a black man looks like. This is what I can look just like everybody else. And so it's a constant push and pull. Hey, Charles, how are you? It's a constant push and pull. Please write to me, guys, because I'm not seeing... Oh, there we are. Yay. Hello, hello, hello. So glad to have you all here. So it's a constant push and pull with these images. It's really important to become visually literate so we know what we are looking at. Because I assure you, no one is fighting besides Dred Scott to get that image out there when this is the image that's being propagated, right? I want to show you a really important piece from Betty Sars that was just, I've shown it before, but this piece is the one that really, in the museum, I would sit in front of this for hours with students on my own. This is an image, and I have her, I have something really wonderful, you guys. I have her drawings from the image, so I want to show you what she was thinking of doing. This is called bent but not broken. So she takes, again, that notion of the mammy, the slave that's working inside the home, and then during Reconstruction, the freed black woman who's still working in the home as an indentured servant or not paid very much, and then continuing on in domestic work for a long time. Hey, Kip, how are you? David, great to see you. And this is a piece of wood as an ironing board, and the iron and the chain, and then the most gorgeous, beautiful piece of linen, monogrammed. Personally, I loved monogram images, monogrammed sheets, but she has them monogrammed with the KKK. This is riveting. It was riveting to see, and it was in that image, that whole exhibit called Keeping It Clean, and that kind of empowering that mammy image, the reclaiming of it. And these are her notes. These are her notebooks. She says here that she's taking this board and she's using it as the slave ship. Shh, Newton? My dog's back there making noise, sorry. She's using it as visually, as the ironing board looks a lot like the slave ship. And the image is printed on the top of the way the slaves were put into the ship. And then on this one, on the other one here, she talks about the iron and how it shackled the chain, and then the image on the head of it. Yeah, really powerful. So African Americans have been trying to offset these images. Oh, here, I've got a better look at it, guys. From day one, right? From day one. And it's a very hard journey because they're being hit on both sides. The one side is the images that white America has put out in order to look at, of who they are. The notion of the African American has been determined by white America. And the other side of that is the images that we put out and the monuments of who we are. And so here you have the notion that the South, the poor South, the culture, the South has just died. It's not that slavery died, it's that this culture has died. And then as well, you have John Calhoun, who is, I'm telling you, read about him. He didn't do one good thing except he was fervent supporter of slavery. Yeah, fervent supporter of slavery, and yet he's there. So I was very taken, Clyde, by what you said yesterday, and that we had this beautiful dinner conversation with my family, and I don't know if you heard what I said before, but my son is so gifted in terms of history, and yet his major in college is math. But he's so gifted in history, and he said to me, it's one thing, no one's asking anybody to erase history. We're asking not to celebrate those that have not contributed in a powerful way. If your only contribution is that you support slavery, there's no reason to have a monument up. That needs to change. That really needs to change. Frederick Douglass, also an African American who's tried for so many years. He took as many photographs as he could of himself to show people the image of a black male who was empowered and educated and smart and cultured, so that people had the other side of that. Because for so long, we see on one side of the pro-slave, and the other side, we have our notion of what we think. I'm just looking for this, my friends. Sorry, looking. Of a black man. It's been a very long journey. A very, very, very long journey. And I'm so sure that if America really understood, if everybody was visually more literate, and I'd be very happy to take the mantle of this. I will do it for free. Yes, a public service. absolute public service, and we'll do it with hashtag looking is learning. You'll tell me what you see. I don't have to educate anybody. You'll figure it out. And let's take up this battle. And because I'm so sure that if people really understood what they were looking at, they would all come to the same understanding that something needs to change. We need to change. That this image of Roosevelt does not at all tell us anything of his true contributions. Not at all. It's just, it helps demean other people. Yeah, that's what I want to say. So I'm very excited because Betty Saar is very excited. I really like Betty Saar. And I got to work with her as a youngish curator, and she was youngish too. And, I got to work with Emma Amos and such. But Betty recently, I think she tweeted it. She is so excited. Yeah, she tweeted it. She said, "Liberation of Aunt Jemima." She's so happy because she did a piece called "Liberation of Aunt Jemima" in let me just look at the exact date on that. 1972, my friends. That's when she started trying to liberate Aunt Jemima. Can you imagine that? And today, Betty Saar at 92, is seeing her lifelong quest. I want to show you. Look at that. I kid you not. She's been trying to liberate Aunt Jemima since 1972. Aunt Jemima deserves to be liberated. She says she's liberated, finally, at long last, and it's about time. Quaker Oats announced that it is retiring the Aunt Jemima brand and logo, saying that its origins are based on racial stereotypes. Yes, and who created the stereotype? Right. What is one of my friends saying? Some counties in Colorado are named after. Yeah, I know that, Charles. I mean, I have a real problem with when people are going to get mad at me and say, "Why do you have problems with Jefferson? What a president." And my son goes, "Oh, wow, he balanced a budget. Yay." He created the Trail of Tears. We have to tell the full story. We don't erase history, but we have to make sure that the monuments we put up are not about celebrating, right? I got an idea. Let's take a page from Italy's book. Let's put in fountains everywhere. I love fountains. Don't you love fountains? Isn't water healing, especially in the summer? I used to live in Princeton. Oh my God, you guys, the big fountain in Princeton, we were all in that fountain all summer long with our dogs and just having fun. Yeah, let's put in fountains. Let's put in beauty. Yeah. Clyde agreed, but the violent tearing down and ugly vandalism is not the way to remove them. Clyde, I don't really know what the way to remove them is because Betty Saar has been at it since 1972, so I don't know what the way to do it is, except that once you've reached a point, every movement starts with a lot of anger. It starts with a lot of anger, and rightfully so. I can certainly, how they call the first generation feminists, those angry women? Ooh. Newton, stop it. My dog is begging for treats. Those angry women. So I don't know what the right way to do it is. All I could say is that I understand it because I'm fed up. Yeah. Educate and discuss. I'm sure people would come to an agreement and remove it. I hope so. I hope that's true. Yeah, fountains, right, Arlene? Wouldn't you just love more fountains? When I was at the University of Rome, and it was the summer, it was in July, before school was over, I am telling you, we had in the cafeteria, my friends, out back, a little fountain with some water, and we were sweltering and nobody cared. But just hearing the water in the fountain in the back, in the little piazza in our little cafeteria was so beautiful. Let's put up some fountains. Yeah, we don't have to worry about insulting anybody because I know we want to do better. Because if Aunt Jemima has hurt so many African American women, because I certainly know it hurt Betty Saar, she has spent her life fighting against these images. fighting against them. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. Yeah. Fountains and gardens, nature. That was really what Roosevelt was about, right? He really created for the thank God he created the beautiful parks that we have today that he was so concerned would go to families like his who would just kind of co-opt it and build gorgeous homes on it, and then America wouldn't get to benefit in them. So let's build gardens, let's build fountains, let's have art exhibits that rotate. Let's have I'm willing to do this, you guys, because that's the kind of gal I am. I'm going to take up this standard bearer, and I'm happy to do visual thinking for America, visual literacy, free of charge. Free of charge. We are going to learn something in this country, and you know what we're going to feel? Proud. Proud. Because knowledge is pride. It's such a sense of pride for the things we know. I get frustrated. Yeah, European style, right? That's so funny, Clyde. I get frustrated, but I also, in this time, I also feel such a sense of pride in my education, because I do feel like people can be fighting in a room around me, opinions, and I sit and I try for peace and serenity, as you're saying, Charles, and I feel like I know better. And so education would give people a real sense of peace and serenity and pride. And so a figure like this, people will just naturally want to replace it. Absolutely want to replace it, do better. That's not the America. Yeah, that was our history, but we can do better now. We can do better because when you go from that to this man, Dred Scott, so empowered as a slave, so empowered as an enslaved person that he had the audacity to take his case to court. He lost. It took 10 years. But the point was that he had the agency and the empowerment to do that, the self-empowerment at the same time when this is what they wanted us to know about Black men. Yeah. So, yeah. My mom, oh my God, I have to say this to my mother. Mom, I am blown away by how brilliant you are. Okay, you guys, my mother, nobody can ever complain about not understanding technology. My mother got here. She only knew about the Facebook show, and she got here, and my husband Gene's not home. He and William took a ride up to Boston. They're on their way back, so he couldn't even help her get on. But she got on here, and she figured out how to write, how to send a Oh my God, I am so proud of you. Oh my God, I am so proud of you, Mom. Well done. You are brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, because that's the history of America, right? That's a beautiful history of America, to know that Dred Scott was up against this and he still found it in him to be this. That all around Anne Frank, the names that she heard her people being called, the stereotypes, which she knew what was happening to her people and would most likely happen to her. And yet she, as a 13-year-old girl, had the empowerment and the beauty and the incredible heart and soul to write that diary and to believe that people are basically good. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. People can be extraordinary. And that's what we have to celebrate. Thank you guys for encouraging my mother like that. Thank you so much. So my son and husband went up to Boston because I think William's not sure if he's going to, I'm going to transition, if he's going to go back to campus this September or continue to study from home. So they took a drive today and they're on their way back now. In fact, they should be walking through the door any minute. I walked my dog for the first day in 2 months, you guys, because I told you I got that shot 2 days ago. It's still painful. Had a rough night last night, but you know what? It's loosening up. So I got to walk Newton, and so that's all good. All right. So in the spirit of fountains and beauty and the best of who people are, because I really do believe it. I really do. Tomorrow night, I know I have a meeting, but I'm not sure how late. I think I'll still be here. Yeah, we missed her, right, Arlene? Tomorrow night, maybe we should look at some of those Italian fountains. I don't know. A trip to Rome feels good right about now, right? Yeah. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me. It's always my pleasure and my honor to be here with you. And if you come across anybody that needs some visual literacy, you send them my way. This is my contribution to America, because I know we can do better. I know. Once you know, you know. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of choosing this over. I really didn't want to look at myself full screen anymore. This over, 1 second. This. Yeah? All right. Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, everybody. So, Jean makes the most amazing dinners, but I said to them as they're on their way home, I was like, all right, guys, I'll see you soon. I'm ordering in. Good